All right, everyone, welcome to NLP Today. And I was going to talk a little bit about life coaching, and of course, I'll tie it into a class. I have a life coaching class coming up. It's going to be 4 Sundays in September from 10 to 4. So it's a much more intensive class. And the reason I'm doing it is, every time I open up Facebook or Instagram, all that, there's all these classes. They'll show you how to become a life coach. My personal favorite is for $7. They'll make you a life coach, an NLP master practitioner, and you probably get a letter from God or some bullshit like that. Oh, and also master hypnotist in a $7 class. But I see so much, in my opinion, I can only say, bullshit, misinformation when it comes to life coaching, right? And I've been doing the NLP coaching since I got into this. In fact, when coaching was taking off, I remember being approached by someone that says they wanted me to help them start this coaching certification. And you talk about regrets. I'm looking back on it. I'm like, I don't know. Why would you do that? If you're a hypnotist or an NLP, or especially if you're into NLP, you've got what 90% of the people teach in coaching courses. How to gather the information. What do you want? What would they do? I mean, it's the NLP, what I would call the meta model, right? And one or two techniques. That's it. They don't, and then, one of my friends is big in the ICF, and I've got their training, and I'm like, there's nothing special here, right? But it's like the International Coaching Federation. You need to be certified by these people, right? And so I wish I would have started a coaching organization. I thought, why would anybody want to do it? If you already got the skills, that's what we do is coaching. So I did the NLP coaching course, and I talked about, like, in general coaching, my rule of thumb, or just general thing, is the only time I've seen people get in trouble in coaching, and we see it a lot online, where they're going to coach you in something they don't have a clue, right? Like, I'll show you how to coach Fortune 500 executives. And if you get to talking to the person, first of all, if they were really coaching Fortune 500 executives, they probably wouldn't offer a course on it. Right? There's too much money if you're in that C-suite with these guys. Why, but they'll do that, right? Or they'll, or the ones that just, it's too general, right? So, but we have the skill set, right? But when it comes to life coaching, the reason I was going to do a life coaching course is, what we know about, really getting people to take action. The few life coaching courses I've audited, because I'll take them just to see what's in them. They've got so much misinformation, right? And it's just the number one rule. That one thing we'll be going over. I've broken it down in, like, it's 4 Sundays. So, we're going to do different things on different days. But like one of the Sundays is, I've decided to call it, how to design the rest of your life, right? So if somebody comes to life coaching, one of the things they might say is, I want my life to have meaning. Right? I mean, I've heard that, like, and usually it's people, they're successful, they're doing okay, maybe they're in the whatever you would call midlife crisis now, which could be from whatever to whatever age, but it's like, and a couple of the life coaching courses I've kind of been around, they'll hammer in, well, we just have to find your passion. Once you get your passion, you'll move to the head of the line, you'll do this, it's all about finding your passion. And that's one of the worst goddamn pieces of advice you could get, right? Because that's assuming one thing, that you only have one passion. And the people that truly have one passion never show up to a life coach, by the way. They're the kids in high school says, I want to be a surgeon. And they become a surgeon. And if that was truly their passion, especially as a kid growing up, they're happy with it. That's what they're doing, their life mission, their, whatever it is. Most of us have multiple passions, and any of them, at least 3, would make you just as happy. just as happy as the other passion. An example I use in a weird way is a young lady wants to be an actress, gets success. You know, they're doing movies or TV. And then probably what you'd call in the height or in their good part of their career, they drop out because they got married and had a kid, and they want to have a family, right? And sometimes from the outside, people say, well, why would you give up this career to raise a family? Well, what if one of their passions is they want to be a good mom, right? But from the outside, does that make sense to everybody? You can have multiple and be just as happy, as, becoming Betty Davis and beating your kid with a wire coat hanger, right? But I mean, it's like, so you have multiple passions, and usually this field should be the one that would really understand that, because I have a passion for helping people with NLP and hypnosis, and I like teaching it. Those are two different passions, right? But I see a lot in the NLP. Part of it, let's be honest, the NLP and the hypnosis world, there's a large segment that is nothing more than a damn multi-level marketing. Take this training, and then once you're trained, I'll train you at the master level, and then I'll make you a trainer. In fact, you get started on Friday, and a week from now you'll be a trainer of NLP. The day before your training started, you had no idea what this stuff was, right? And I understand the thought processes of this, and honestly, I've actually done it, to be honest with you. So this is, yes, hypocritical, pot me kettle, but it's been a long time. But it's like, most of the people that get in our field now, when people tell me they want to be a trainer, I always ask them why. Right. First of all, if you have a nice practice and you're in a certain area, I'll say, well, do you want to train your competition? That would be my first question. And one of the people you train, if you train over 20, one of them will end up kicking your ass in business. I've seen it over the years. They're good at marketing. Like this person, they had a hypnosis clinic and it was going well, and they started doing hypnosis training. They brought a person, and the person had been a client, so I think they said they'd stop smoking. Very good businessman, owned an insurance company. I remember that. And then after he got into it, he goes, basically, he put the guy that trained him out of business, because he knew how to. A lot of us in the NLP and hypnosis world weren't good business people, aren't good marketers. This guy built a multi-million-dollar insurance company. So he goes, well, I'll just take the same idea and do it over here, right? And so, I mean, it's fascinating. But anyway, so you have multiple passions, and really a good life coach should be able to take someone and connect the dots. Connect the dots. And what I mean by that is, what are you doing for a living? What do you do now that, as long as you don't hate your job, what are you doing now? What are some of your other passions? And then if you connect the dots, then you can help them do other things, right? And it's also the other big lie I see that very few people will point out is this whole thing about turn all your interests into income generators. Like you have a good hobby, turn it into income, right? And I can understand that at some level. You're like, yes. But have you ever met someone that, like, I'll just tell a story, me and my stories. Friend of mine, it's a true story. As our friend Billy would say, a no-shitter, right? And they got into martial arts as an adult, right? And they really liked martial arts. And so then, the person that had the school where they were training was moving. They had a job besides doing martial arts, and so they were moving. So they went to close the school. Said, does anybody want it? So long story short, the guy buys the martial arts school, right? And so he's running a martial arts school because he loved martial arts. And after about 2 years, I remember talking to him because it was down here. He goes, biggest mistake of my life. because it's no fun anymore. It's now a job. I don't go there to just like blow off steam, work out, do what I do. Now it's a job. Putting on the gi is like putting on a suit. Right. And I've seen in other things, remember talking to someone when they found out, in my other world, I went back and did a play, and they're like, well, you've done movies lately, right? And I said, yeah, quite a few. Paid movies and a paid play. And they're like, I want to do this. I'm like, and it was a community theater. I said, well, are you really sure? Right? Because once you step to that level, first of all, you come back and do community level, you'll want to slap everybody because they're not as good. Secondly, it becomes your job. You won't, it's just like, in community theater, there's a play, but you really don't want to do it. They offer you a part and you say no. But if you're up at the next level, that might be the only gig on your agenda. You take the part, right? And it's just like my friend that ran the martial arts studio. Once it became a career, it's not that it changed his passion, right? Because now he had to judge everything by dollars and cents, to keep the doors open, keep the lights on, pay the insurance, right? All that kind of stuff. So, that's what I mean by connecting the dots. There's things you could do. Sometimes we just coach people up in finding that and connecting the dots and finding joy in there's different passions, and just because you did this now doesn't mean you have to do that then. So we'll be going over that. We'll also be talking about I think it's going to be a half a day. We'll be on procrastination and how procrastination is actually a self-defense mechanism caused by trauma. Right? It's a defense mechanism. That's why you can watch all the Tony Robbins videos you want, and you'll be motivated. How many people have seen someone go to a Tony Robbins seminar and they're come back all motivated, and you talk to them 2 days later and they're not motivated anymore, right? Because that surface level motivation will go away because you haven't addressed the thing that causes the procrastination. It's easy for someone to say, just take massive action, right? But if you have that block inside of you, that massive action usually results in pain and suffering, right? Or letting other people down because you're not living to their rules, right? So you end up procrastinating, right? Or also the other thing with procrastination, maybe there's a subset of perfectionism. You won't do it till you can do it perfectly, right? You won't do it till you can do it perfectly, And let me look something up. I had a quote for this I want to share with everybody. It's a Carlos Castaneda quote, right? A man of knowledge lives by acting, not by thinking about acting, right? Which how many of us, I used to call it the Oprah Winfrey, sit on the couch, think about changing your life. Because you watch a really good show where this person lost 100 pounds and now they're a marathon runner and they're this, and you're sitting there eating your donut going, that's a good idea. But they never take action because they can't. It's not because they won't, they can't, right? And so that's, so when we talk about what is really procrastination, is it this, is it that? And, how to blow that out of the water, right? And then that will also, I think the second part of that day will be on self-worth and self-esteem, right? Which kind of goes into that I'm not good enough, which could go back to procrastination. But, it's that, why are people with high self-worth and high self-esteem usually very successful, right? Regardless of what they do, right? And so, it's easy for a motivational speaker to say, not just raise your standards, but, people will treat you how you allow them to treat you. That's an interesting concept up here, but can you live it, right? And that has to do with self-esteem, self-worth, and some of this other stuff that, not all of us have the same thing. And so, besides designing your life, like designing your destiny, how to do that stuff, connecting the dots, the procrastination, the self-worth, and then a whole day is on how to 10x your life, which is, all the research says incremental leaps or incremental changes in your life are hard. But it's what the Western model does, like we'll just increase our business 10% in this quarter, right? And they work really hard, or you're just going to do, sounds good, right? Well, when you look at breakthroughs where people just like they 10x, they're making 10 times the business. It usually comes rapidly, right? So the mindset is it's actually it's easier to 10x your life than it is to 2x your life. I'm borrowing from a business coach called Dan Sullivan with that. He's like, it's easier to explode over here and go 10 times than it is this, right? But to do that, there's going to be massive changes. And that's whether it's and if you're going to do life coaching, whether that's your personal life or your professional life, right? And part of that is, are you willing, and this is what happens when I've coached people, are you willing to give up the 80% of your life that doesn't move you toward what you want? It's the old Reed's a businessman, Diamond Bruce is a businessman. We're all business people. But the old 80-20 rule, right? 20% of your clients make 80% of your money. It's true in everything. But sometimes that 80%, are you willing to give that up? And going back to my story about that person said I really want to try to do the film work. I said, well, first of all, then this may be the last play you'll ever do. Well, what do you mean? I go, how long did we commit to this play? 6 weeks of rehearsal, a 4-week run, 10 weeks with an extra, say 3 months out of your life. You couldn't audition or take a film role. Right? Because hopefully you're not the type to quit the play in the middle of the run, right? And they have to scramble around to find you. And secondly, a lot of your film work is last minute. A couple of you see me that. It's like suddenly I'll, on a Wednesday, I'll say, ooh, next week I got to shoot in Georgia. I just got it, right? So you have to, are you willing to give up this? Which could be a lot of fun, If you're going to coach someone and they want to make a major breakthrough in physical stuff, right? If Diamond Bruce called me and says, I want to be at the Tour de France level of cyclists, his mazelbusiness.com is probably going to go in the shitter, right? Because he's going to be training, 6 to 8 hours a day and changing his diet and doing all the stuff you have to do to get to that level, right? I always think of bodybuilders when, it's the reason why you see guys in good shape, but you see very few in great shape, right? Because it's giving up the pizza and the beer and the da-da-da-da-da. So part of it, we'll be talking about, just like business, it's like, are you willing to cut away things that don't get you to where you want to go? Some of you seen, I just had that experience with something I was going to do last month. And then at the last minute, I go, I'm not doing it. It's not moving me toward where I want to go. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the process, and all that. But it's like, it doesn't move me to where I want to be. And it's one of those that sounds easy till you start thinking, and in your person, if you want to, people call us for life coaching, they want to increase their business. Okay, are there any deadbeats in your life you got to cut out, including family members? Right? So we'll be talking about that. That's part of the 10x method, how to increase your stuff exponentially. So that's kind of like an overview of how it's going to be different than some life coaching courses. It's kind of like the difference between, I try to approach this the way I teach, like master level NLP, as opposed to what other people teach at master level. Most NLP practitioners and trainers, basically they take the basic level and add a few fancy techniques. That's their master level. Those people have been through mine. The master level is 1 or 2 techniques, but if you've gone through basic NLP, I think you know how to do a technique. How hard is it? You pick the book up and you read the steps and you put it in your own words, you can do the technique. So what would be the master level? So I teach it as how to do everything covertly, with waking hypnosis, with this and that, right? So it's kind of the way I'm approaching this. So, that's the NLP Life Coaching 10X Your Life program that's going to run in September, 4 Sundays in September, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. So yes, on the West Coast, you'll be getting up early, but God damn it, why not? What are you doing so important on Sunday morning or Saturday night? If your life is still that active and you're still that vibrant, God love you, you could catch it on replay. But so that's coming up. If you have any questions, just direct message me, shoot me an email at drwillhorton@gmail.com, and I'll happily let you know more.